Welcome to Business Success Tips, where you learn to make more money in less time and have a lot more fun. I'm your host, Paul Sanneman, founder of Contractor Staffing Source. We help contractors build great teams. Today, my guest is Nick Peret from Better Boss. I assume you're a good boss after that kind of name, right?
I'm
So
all right. Yes.
give me your background and why people should listen to you when you're talking.
Yeah, 100%. So I grew up in the blue collar world. So my whole family, my dad was an electrician, uncle was a plumber, cousin did custom homes, you kind of name it. So I just always just been part of that community, that trades community. And so when I graduated college, I went and worked for Milwaukee Tool, great company, best tools. You got to get the M18 fuel line. Let's go. So I did sales with them for a while. For about 3 years. They threw me all over the country, Portland, San Francisco, you kind of name it, I was all over the place. And it was a great experience. It was one of those companies where they were 100 years old, and all of a sudden they're growing 20% year after year, right? It was incredible growth. It was something that was great to be part of. You got to see, firsthand what a really well-established sales team and culture, R&D and product development, branding, what it can do for a company and the kind of growth it really can cause. So that was, my first real start in the career was working in trades. But after that, I worked for a software company and I was doing cold calls. For anybody out there that does cold calls, much respect. I was doing about 150 cold calls a day, talking to contractors. So about half of the people I was calling were some kind of contractors, HVAC, plumbing, roofing, you kind of name it. And I was talking to them for hours and hours every single day, about 3 hours of talk time a day. And after a while, you start to, your entrepreneurial mind starts to tick a little bit. You're like, I wonder if I could solve those problems, right? And that was really my first push into, maybe I should start my own thing. And maybe I should have a business that's actually serving these contractors in an area that I knew that they struggle with. When you're looking at digital marketing, when you're looking at online presence, when you're looking at software technology, right? It's just one of those things where it gets complicated. Maybe they don't even have the time to learn. So I'm doing my cold calls, and one day at lunch, decide that I am just going to get up and leave. I call my friend at the time and say, "Hey, if I run out of money, will you make sure that you can support me?" So I lived for about $1,500 a month for 1,500 bucks a month for about 6 months until I started to kind of figure it out. So my first real entrepreneurial journey was in the contractor world, and that's when I started working in companies specifically for roofing contractors, right? And so when I was starting that, one of my first clients that I had a chance to work with was somebody that you actually had on your podcast, Randy Brothers. Somebody out here who has a really well established roofing company, very credible. And he was starting the roofing academy at that time, right, where he's going to help start, build, and grow roofing contractors across the country. So I actually ended up becoming a part founder of that company with him as well. So while I was doing that, I was also launching and growing a commercial roofing lead generation company. And so with that company, basically what we were doing was automating the business development for people who are currently in commercial or interested to building a book of business in the commercial realm, right? So we're generating about 300, 350 commercial leads per week across the country. But once I decided to sell that, I basically went all in, man. I thought I was working hard before, but when it comes to my mission with Better Boss, where you're looking at just like scalable processes and systems that are supported by the right technology, and that all of these bells and whistles, if you will, on these different tools are actually utilized so that this tool becomes a resource and an asset rather than like a liability and just another monthly cost for you and your organization. Right. So that's what I've been doing now. As soon as I sold that company, I basically just spent thousands of hours in front of the computer, learning different technology, learning different AI, automation tools, so that way I can best serve my customers. And so far, the results have been great. But it's one of those things where when you're looking at technology, obviously implementing technology is
Well,
challenging. But go ahead.
I would, one of the things, Nick, is that most people that are in the trades and companies were craftsmen before they're entrepreneurs, and they have to make that transition. And one of the hardest transitions to make is a tech transition because
Hmm.
Most companies start off with, they buy, I don't know, pick a number. They're using Go High Level. They start buying tech, right? They don't understand it, but somebody says they should have it. So they buy some kind of project management software, some kind of CRM, some kind of accounting. And all of a sudden they've got a tech stack. They have no clue what it all is. And it doesn't interact and it doesn't talk to each other. And they're paying all these bills like, well, and I know my wife had to say, what? I said, I don't know. I'm paying that for a year. I don't know what it does, right? So,
Oh
um, how do you avoid? I'm going to call it the organic tech stack dilemma, because you never start off with a tech stack. You start, well, I need some kind of CRM, and then well, I need some kind
yeah.
of everybody has a book, QuickBooks, some accounting software, and does it have an API? They talk to each other. And it's just generally a mess, right?
It's a mess. Yeah.
How do you straighten out somebody who has, 50, I don't know, 10, I had like 15 different softwares, incredible, right? How do you straighten out all those different softwares to make sure they work with each other and get rid of the stuff they don't need?
Yeah, 100%. And that starts out with the kickoff and discovery. So like my big thing is, of course, I'm gonna get access to all their tools, all their technologies, and that's gonna be part of that process where I'm gonna analyze job files. I'm gonna see if there's any kind of consistency or if everybody's just doing their own thing, what the utilization's like, everything like that. But in that discovery, I like to just do it where in a recorded call, we're going over their entire step from when a brand new lead comes in all the way to closing out the job, right? I want to know if Nancy's doing this, if Becky's doing that, if Ryan's doing this, right? What tool they're utilizing. And once you start to go through that conversation, you start to figure out that most people are just kind of doing their own thing, right? There's not a whole lot of collaboration and utilization of the systems. And then all of a sudden, what I'll hear is, "Hey, what about for a measurement tool, aerial measurement tool? What are you guys using?" Right? Bobby says one thing, Jill says another, right? And then we got Joe saying another. And so now all of a sudden you start to realize they have, three or four different measurement tools, and you start to see this overlapping, right? So ideally, my thing is I'm not going to try to come in to switch somebody out of their CRM if we can utilize it. It makes the most sense for them to stick with their current system, right? And just making sure that we're optimizing it. But I like to definitely pull away for sure. I would almost say I'd like to pull more software away from their tech stack and refine it and cut down and maximize the right tools the best way rather than just keep adding more stuff on. Because that's when I start to get stressed out when other people, everybody's using a different tool for the same part of the process. So, I mean, for example, we had a contractor, we saved them, I think it was $7,200 a month on their tech stack, right? Every single month they get to see that now.
Well, now let's take it. How do you analyze it? If I'm a contractor, and how do I quote analyze my tech stack? First, I got to find out what it is. And generally, I'll have QuickBooks, I'll have some kind of
Hmm.
CRM, I'll have some kind of email thing. And I know, one of the frustrations I've had is I think I was on Infusionsoft, and then I looked at Sales,
Hmm.
and then my tech guy said, well, let's use Go High Level. And I getting one thing, I got so many things to know how to use it. And secondly, getting people to use it is really hard, because I've got a bunch
Oh
of,
yeah.
I'm still on a bunch of Excel spreadsheets, because people, I understand Excel spreadsheet. If I tell Grow High Level or whatever, all this stuff gets integrated. I'm not sure how it works. I'm just going to go simple and see how it works. But I would say utilization generally sucks. They just don't know how to use it all. And they're not technically oriented. There's nobody in the company, usually small companies don't have a tech guy. So they just sort of wing it. How do you solve that problem?
I mean, so I'll be just transparent. Like I said, this is a mission of mine, right? And I'm getting better and better and better, and I think I am one of the most skilled. I really do when it comes to this area. But it is a very difficult job. It really is, right? Because you spend all this time, all this energy getting everything set up, everything perfect, right? But then there's still an adoption and a utilization problem, right? I mean, I'll come into companies. A lot of the companies I come into, they're usually growing, and so they're usually stressed out and there's a lot of growing pains and it's really messy. And when I come in there, right, some of the employees, they just don't want to see with me. They just don't want another thing that's going on that's interrupting them, whatever it might be. And a lot of the conversations I have with, team leads, maybe it's accounting, they're like, hey, if we switch the software, we're gonna quit. Like that's the first thing that they say to me. Right. So that's kind of what you're up against. People just don't like change, even if it's going to be good in the long run. So my big thing is making sure that those team leads in each department are part of the process, right? I mean, everybody wants to be heard. And if I can really pitch it on, hey, it's going to do X, Y, Z for your position, your career, making your life easier, right? And I'm listening to their input as we're going along. That's huge. And then, of course, it's going to be training. I mean, the training process is got to be hands-on. I think the biggest thing is taking example job files or whatever it might be and running through it hands-on with the different software all the way through, because otherwise what happens is people
Yeah,
get
yeah,
really intimidated.
the big problem is utilization. Like, I would say the most utilized product is probably Excel. Everybody has like spreadsheets, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I must have 300 spreadsheets. I mean, there's spreadsheets for this and spreadsheets for that and spreadsheets for this. And then all the software companies go, oh no, we'll solve all those problems. We will put it all in one big integrated system. We'll get rid of all your spreadsheets. They'll all talk to each other. There's this big promise. I don't care if you're talking about project management software or CRM or pick one. They all give you this promise that, oh, we'll dump all the Excel spreadsheets and we'll use our stuff to integrate everything. And my experience is that is not true, because people are so
Hmm.
hooked onto the spreadsheets. They know how to use Excel. They know how to use spreadsheets. I mean, my example would be, I go high level because it's supposed to always wonderful things, right? But I'm sure it will.
Hmm.
But I got on my team saying, look, I'm using my Excel spreadsheet. I don't understand this whole thing. I don't know how it integrates. It's a pain in the ass. So they end up doing both and frustrated. How do you solve that problem?
Hmm. Well, I mean, so I think the reason why people get frustrated, obviously, like I said, they don't like to change, right? So you already have that resistance no matter what. You could have the worst system out there and they still don't want to change because they're used to what they're doing. 100%, right? But my thing is I put so many hundreds of hours into each project and each client, right? In the nitty-gritty stuff, when you're looking at any kind of, data integration, automations, anything that can just be done where you're taking out manual work that people are doing on a regular basis,
Mhm.
right? And so I'm taking so much weight off of them through that process, right? That they're not having to do all these manual tasks anymore, right? So once you get them into it, right? Because I do make sure all the data is integrated, right? Because that's the biggest thing, is because people are putting data in here, 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 here. My thing is one centralized truth, right? And that's gonna make life easier for everybody. And so if you want to really, really scale, right, some of these bigger companies, tens and 20, 30, $40 million, at some point, you got to be able to make that scary jump, right? And I think the biggest thing for me is, at a leadership standpoint, when the leader, obviously they're usually stressed out during the situation too, really buys in and kind of has my back through that situation too, that's going to trickle down into the culture of the team throughout the entire project.
So how long does it usually take you if a company has 15 different softwares, they've been developed for
Hmm.
years and they're stuck on stuff. How long does it take you let's pick a number, $5 million company. They've got 15 different softwares and you're trying to integrate them. Does that take you like a year, a month? How long does that process take?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I hate to say it this way, but it's going to go based off of everybody's level of complexity, right? Size and where they're at. We've worked with contractors who are just getting going, right? You can get them pretty teed up from basically nothing to something that they feel really strong about and confident in 3 to 4 months. And then, we'll work with a contractor who might have, six, seven, eight, nine locations. They're doing commercial, they're doing residential, right? And they're trying to build out almost like a franchise model, right? Of a
Right,
hierarchy. And that's good. That's just a whole nother ball game.
right. Now I know that it's sort of off subject, but now everybody has some kind of AI integration, right? I mean,
Hmm.
it's changing everything, right? So how do you integrate, I know it's a big broad question, AI, because what's happening, AI changes literally every week. And then what happens is
Hmm.
with AI, the software gets way better because they can do way more than it used to. I mean, now AI is making the phone calls instead of the appointments. You've got AI helpers. That wasn't around a year ago. And so how do you keep up, even once you get the stack sort of organized with new technology that comes along every 6 months or 3 months?
I mean, it's tough to do. It's a great question again. I mean, when it comes to AI, it's funny because I never had really any spare time. I was always running a gun, and then I sold my business. You kind of have a little bit of an identity crisis. You have all this time on your hands, and that was literally when all the AI stuff was just hitting hard, right? And it started to really blow up. And I started downloading. I was like 150, 200 AI stuff because I had the time, right?
Right.
And I'm like, oh my God, like this is going to change everything. Like I was just so blown away, right? And it's funny because I always try not to get, too sexy with it, where, a contractor hires me and now all of a sudden I'm just pushing them in the most advanced AI stuff too, right? So that's another problem because I got to make sure that their fundamentals are sound too. And once their fundamentals are sound, that's when I start to put in, the bells and whistles, like the AI and kind of stuff like that. But and my thing with the AI though is any contractors out there, you got to be using it, even if it's just you using it for personal use and just downloading ChatGPT or whatever it might be for these different applications and just getting used to how to utilize it, right? And how to prompt to get the results that you want. Um, it's going to be big because I mean, for me, it's like I'm looking at, some of the stuff that I can set up. Of course, you can do custom chat bots, right? So you're going to be able to take all your SOP, all your documentation, everything that you have about your company. You can upload that. You can add skills, functions, everything like that. Right now, you can use that, of course, client facing, or you could have it where instead of you having to answer every single question because maybe you don't have certain things built out or whatever it might be, and everybody's just used to coming to you for questions, they can just ask the chatbot and they're going to know all those answers and it's going to be able to walk them through it. Right. And you mentioned the AI calling. I mean, you could have it where, hey, lead comes into the website. As soon as it comes in, right, you have an AI caller that's basically integrated your CRM and it's just going to call immediately. It's going to have access to your calendar and it will book that initial appointment on your calendar, right? Proposal signed. As soon as the proposal is signed, it moves automatically into proposal signed stage and initiates a phone call for them to call and schedule the project, right? I mean, it's insane and it's crazy because I set up some of these callers and these callers, especially if you do like a follow-up call where it's maybe you have a follow-up system where it's like, hey, 3 days, 7 days, whatever it is, you call them if you weren't able to schedule it. I mean, their objection handling, right? Their capabilities to answer these certain questions. It's like, man, it's like it might be more impressive than me sometimes on the phone, you know?
Well, I mean, AI is way smarter than I am. I figured that out.
Oh,
So
me too.
one of the things that is interesting is that contractors have resisted technology. I don't know. That's my experience. They just, I've drug
100%.
when I started out there using pagers, and I've drug them through all this technology. And the latest one is AI, and I go, this is going to change everything. It's like it'll make the phone call, it'll set up the deal, it'll write the contract, it'll come up with the job ads. In our business, it does a lot of stuff. And I think one of the things that I suggest maybe you can help teach is prompt engineering. You got to know how to ask it the question to get the right answer. And a lot of people don't know how to do that. And so they use, oh, it gave me the wrong answer. That's because you didn't answer the right question, right? So do you help
100%.
people with prompt engineering and how to use that in their specific business?
I'm getting a little deeper into it, right? I mean, it's like just like you said with the AI stuff, everybody's starting to get interested in it, right? But a lot of the people that I'm working with, you know, fundamentally, whether it's like job costing, automations, all this kind of stuff, just some of the fundamental stuff is so much more important that I focus on it. And when I look at more of the higher level, sophisticated, type pioneer contractors, that's kind of stuff that would definitely work hands on, right? So where it's like, hey, let's build you out your own bot for your team. Let's teach them what to say, how to say it, how to maximize the systems, right? And I think just doing the hands-on training is gonna be the best way. I'll make videos day in and day out, to screen recordings, but most of the time, no one's going to watch that, right? So getting their hands dirty, having a use case they can do, and then do the prompt engineering stuff. Because I mean, it's crazy. I have all these different AI tools. Retail AI is a really cool tool for AI calling. I know Hatch connects to some of these CRM tools. Descript's a great tool for video editing. There's a tool called Monica AI that's got all the different
And it changes every
models.
week. I mean,
Oh
so
yeah,
question, are you like a CTO for a company, or like you become their technical guy for the company? Because most companies
exactly,
cannot afford a CTO, but at the same time,
exactly,
because technology is central to their business. So you become
exactly.
like a fractional chief technology officer for small businesses. That's your like model?
Yeah, exactly, 100%. It's funny because when I had the lead generation company, we're just automating their prospecting. Basically, it's very easy to explain, right? So I kind of came in with Better Boss as this fractional CTO. I know a lot of people use fractional CFOs in the space, right? But the CTO space, for me, I think the hardest part was just the educational, and then figuring out how to package it all together to best serve the customer.
And you also, the technology is changing so fast, you can't stay on top
Mhm.
of it. So you actually like, I know my CTO, he comes in, like, gets on my computer and fixes stuff I have no clue how to fix, because he'll jump on my computer and go, well, click, 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 and you're done. And I'll be stuck. I mean, all of a sudden my Google Calendar stops working, or it's not updated, or this isn't integrated with that, or I get this horrible notice. I can't tell whether it's phishing or a real notice, because it's just getting better. So you help with all that stuff?
And it's funny. I think I have to thank my dad. Like I said, he was an electrician, but his whole thing was troubleshooting, right? And so for me, that's where I come in. I think just at a software level and operational level. I think like the biggest difference for me compared to someone else, right? And just in the same space is with my last two companies, I was never really the tech guy, right? I had enough to get my hands dirty. It was always around technology companies, but I hired people to do the work. So my mindset was always business processes and operations, right? And then I would have somebody else do some of the build outs. And now when I started to get super hands on and learn this stuff, right? It was just like I was able to mix that with my capabilities and just understanding of business operations. And that's kind of where it mixes, right? Because hey, you could have someone who's really good with technology, or you could have someone who's good with processes, but you have to have those hand in hand to be able
Right.
to
The
support them.
technology controls our processes these days.
Yeah.
So if people want to get in touch with you, do you like a discovery call? How do people get to know you and find if you can help them or not?
Yeah, so they can check the new site out. It's basically just ready to go. So it's mybetterboss.ai. And you'll see a button on top. It says free growth audit, right? So it's a free growth audit where basically for an hour, go through all your tech stack, and then I have a scoring system on basically the key criteria that you want to make sure that you have dialed in. So then that way you'll at least have that report card and everything like that, and be able to ask me any questions and see if there's any bottlenecks we might be able to help you out with.
Well, it's sort of like a lot of people don't even know what they don't know. So I think you can help them
Hmm.
with that. So, I mean, Nick, thanks for being here. If you do not have a CTO, which I guess most of us don't have, and you probably don't have a part-time one, when you consider technology is controlling your business, now with AI, technology is changing faster than it's ever changed. And if you're not
Hmm.
on top of it, it can be a huge disadvantage in the marketplace. So Nick, thank you for coming. And I would suggest you give Nick a call unless you have your total technology straightened out, which I totally doubt. So give Nick a call.
Thanks, Paul.